Hello, pursuers. Welcome to another episode of the Pursuit of Happiness podcast. It's me, Nas Kazimi, the crazy one. All over the place one. Will I ever figure this out, you guys? I have no idea. I'm hoping so. I love talking a little bit slower because I can hear myself in the mic set, but anyways, let's get into the Valley Persian style. Now, I really thought it was going to be called the Valley Persian version. I don't know what they did, but this is up my alley. You know why? Because I'm Persian. Oh my God. Can you guys believe this? I'm so excited to do this because I have such strong opinion. Like, of course, I always have a strong opinion. But when it comes to this, I have even stronger opinions because I've lived it. And I feel like I can give you guys a little bit more insight about what really goes on. But so as a general point of view, I love what I'm seeing. It's always like you like it when you see it. And then eventually when it goes off screen or you don't have it for a long time, you're like, oh, I wish it came back. And I'm a little bit more judgmental because I know I'm Persian myself. And obviously I know Persians. But let me tell you something about Persians in general, okay? They're the most, I want to say vain. They're the most, no, they're not shallow. A lot of them are not shallow. They're the most vain people that you'll ever meet. Like I used to at one point go to sleep and put on makeup. So if anything happened in the middle of the night, I'm ready to go. Okay. And then when I see, like, for example, there's a new girl on this season. Well, not this season because she wasn't on the Shaws. Shaws was a completely different show, but her name is Natasha. You guys have seen her. I'm just like, that is like 20-year-old Persians. We all were like that. We all bundled up with makeup and, like we like at all times have to be perfect. Now we're more like the Mercedes type where like she can walk out of the house looking like she just woke up or she's looking like she's going to work, and I think as you get older and you do live in Canada and the US, North America, I want to say, but I'm in Mexico and Mexico's a bit different. Maybe the bigger cities are similar, but there's this thing about like, I get how like you don't have to always look like you're done up, but there's this thing about like looking good and to feel good, And I think the Persians 1000% embody that. If they're going to go fight with their mother-in-law, they're doing a full face of makeup. They don't care if that has to come off during the fight, but it's like it gives them that little extra boost of confidence. Outsiders, other ethnicities might be like, well, you shouldn't get your confidence from your looks. And we don't. I'm pretty sure people are confident in other ways, but it adds to it. It's like another layer, Like, why only be 100% confident when you can be 110% confident? I loved it. I didn't think that I would like it as much, but I did. Good to see some old faces. Good to see that some people, well, not good to see, but it's interesting, I say, to see that some people haven't changed at all. And, let's get into it so you can see my reflection back on it, okay? Hopefully the mic volume is perfect. I think I've nailed where to make it absolutely perfect, but we'll go with this for now. So the opening scenes, some of them shows MJ and Tommy and Shams, and Vida's there. We've missed them. And obviously they flash back to the infamous MJ and Tommy wedding, and I say infamous because honestly, if you guys watch Shaws of Sunset and you watch that episode, it's so cringe and so embarrassing. I get double-hand embarrassment. I could not look at the screen when that wedding was going on. It was so embarrassing. Just how, like, Mercedes, and I know it's her wedding, it wasn't mine, but how she's walking down and she's talking to everybody as she's walking down, and like people are waiting like 3 hours, and it was so cringe. But it's nice to see that they managed to stay together. And I'm speaking as if I'm watching the show in real time because let me fast forward a little bit. After the season finished airing, and me and my own daughter Mercedes, and I didn't name her after that Mercedes, trust me. But me and my own daughter Mercedes were watching. Actually, we were listening to the episode of Tommy and MJ's podcast, And what's funny is this last episode that they ever did together before the announcement of their divorce comes, they started fighting in the last 5 minutes over, and I think this was in the summer, before summer, like before it became like a brand new like school year. School years are in September. MJ and Tommy started fighting about what they were going to name. Like, we got an email from Andy Cohen, obviously, and he said it's going to be called the Valley Persian version. I don't know which one said that. I think. But then, okay, so Tommy said one thing. I don't know if he said Persian version or Persian style. And then I could hear MJ saying, no, it's supposed to be Persian style or Persian version. And again, one of them picked, I don't know which one it was exactly. Please don't quote me. But they were fighting about this. They were fighting about what it was going to be called. So the last 5 minutes of this really nice podcast ended where they started fighting over what it was going to be called. Now, one thing I liked about their relationship is that they're both very like different, but they came together, they stayed together, they managed to get together. Shams is growing up really nicely. They work through their problems and they talk about their problems on their podcast. They're like, well, we don't have enough date nights, or we don't have enough nights where we have just alone time, or they talk about their grievances with Vida. And Tommy says that he's always like, he was just very, he portrayed himself on the podcast. He was always inviting Vida into their relationship and having conversations and whatnot. Sorry, I had to, there was a quick little pause there. I'm not too sure if you guys noticed, but my daughter's on a Zoom call with her Girl Scouts because we were doing it long distance, and I could hear her, and with my ADHD, I couldn't concentrate on what I was trying to say myself. Anyways, they were fighting in the last 5 minutes, and what I've admired about them in general as a couple is that they're really like forthcoming about things that have gone on in their marriage. Again, like I said, and not enough date nights, not enough alone time. One works too much. Tommy had just released a book for kids, for young kids, and like a children's book is a proper word. And a lot of schools would reach out, and then they would get sponsors that would purchase a classroom set for a school, and then Tommy would ship that out. So he was doing really well. They were doing really well, or so it seems. I mean, everything always looks good from the outside. This one episode, again. Oh, and this is what I was saying before I had to go kind of close the door on my daughter. He was even getting along with Vida, and he was accepting. He's like, this is just the way she is. I've learned this. Even though she's fighting with my wife, even though she hates me, he still invites her around for Sham's sake and for her Vida's own sake, because they know that, like, you know, you can get mad at people, but if you miss time, you're gonna regret it. And because he's lost both his parents, he just, despite what was going on, he was always trying to make the peace, or at least make the best decision, not based on emotion, but what would actually be right. So, all this aside, they always argue or get into like disagreements on the podcast, and that's what I loved about it. Now, I love listening to Tommy more alone than I did with Mercedes. I find that Mercedes, again, this is where I become judgmental and Persian. She always has to put up a front, so sometimes she's not being as honest, I feel. That's just me making assumptions, and that's just my opinion. I'm entitled to my opinion. I don't know the girl. I admire what she's put out on TV. I think out of all of them that were on Shaws of Sunset previously, she was the most out there. But I think that now that her life has changed a little bit, there's still part of it that she tries to shield or looks better than most. And I also heard her before on Jeff Lewis's podcast. I've never heard her talk bad about Tommy. Maybe I missed those episodes, but again, I'll get into that. It comes out later that they talk bad about Tommy. Anyways, the last 5 minutes of this episode, they start getting into it, whether it's Persian style, a Persian version. They go get their phones, they whip it out with the emails. This is what it is. I told you so, like Tommy was telling her. And they end the podcast. You know, normal. It's happened before. Literally, I turned to my daughter. I'm like, that was so weird that they were fighting over that. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal. 2 weeks later, announcement in the press, she's getting a divorce. Because we didn't get the podcast. They had just announced that they were going to, you know, make sure, again, Persian time, right? Make sure they get their podcasts out on time. They're, you know, we're sorry, guys, we've been busy. Boom. Announcement in the press that one of them, or that she's the one that filed for divorce. And then a few weeks later, we get a podcast from her And she was just like, like, it's that time for me. Please respect my privacy, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if Tommy's going to come on and tell his side. They did have a successful podcast. He was doing Shaws of Sunset, like, rewatches with people. And I was actually thinking of messaging him and be like, can I do one rewatch with you? Because I'm just getting into that space where I recap, and I would love to do one with Shaws and Persian as well. I think he's obviously not going to do that anymore, but then he comes on and he has a couple more solo episodes as well. So they're doing solo. I think I don't know. I don't think there's an actual schedule, but if someone has something to say, they will, because they did have a good following, and they did have loyal fans. With that being said, shoot, I just lost my train of thought. He comes on and he says, like, you guys need to go start telling Jeff Lewis to stop talking about me. And he was angry at this first one. He's like, they always try to make me look like I'm a bad dad and I don't do anything. And I didn't really understand what he meant by that, because, like, I mean, he does have the book. He's a stay-at-home dad. We always get mad when stay-at-home moms are told, that they don't do much. I think stay-at-home, because she's the one that has the job where, like, you gotta kind of be out and about majority of the time. So I think it's nice that he stays home, especially since he didn't have parents. Well, he had parents, but they died quite young, so he kind of wants to be there for his son. He loves his son. He's a little bit of an older father as well, so he's just, not going to have any more kids. He just wants to enjoy this time with them, so I love that. Now, when you watch the show, the first 2 episodes, you can see how people might think that Tommy does nothing because he doesn't want to kind of be out there with, like, he doesn't want to hang out with her friends. And so when I saw the first episode, and again, we're going to get into the recap, I can see now why he thought it was completely fine. He was having fun, but she wants someone to come to these events with her and to support her through these things. And you can't go on the rest of your life. Let's say they stay together 50 years, never coming out with MJ and her friends. Like, come on. Tommy, you had to give a little bit. But then look at who she's friends with, which is Reza and all these people that he was charged. He, like, destroyed his property. So I can see it now and I can understand it. I never heard Jeff Lewis say that Tommy does nothing. And I've never really heard him talk about Tommy, and I've listened to a lot of episodes that MJ has been on. But that's his opinion, and that's what he's heard. And I just want to say, and I don't know if he's ever going to listen to this or anyone ever will, but I don't think that Tommy does nothing. And I think that's people's opinion. And I think that he needs to just go into, be a little bit more confident in what he does, because he's already doing a good job. So don't care what people think or say. Truth always will reveal itself, and time will always reveal the truth. So he has nothing to worry about. Let people have their opinions. But that being said, I do love Jeff Lewis. I love Jeff Lewis's podcast. And again, I've never heard him say negative things about Tommy. So maybe I've just missed those podcasts. But I can see how, and Jeff is a really, like, loyal guy, prides, he always takes a side, kind of black and white kind of guy, similar to me, until, like, the gray is introduced and he has to warm up to the gray area. But I can see how he would take MJ's side. And I can see that when you're friends with, doesn't matter if you're Jeff Lewis, Tommy, MJ, when you're friends with one side of a couple or an organization or a business, you are only hearing about what the other side is doing. You're not actually perhaps seeing it in person, because Tommy never comes out, or in that case, or have another side to really see, but from what you hear. And of course, judgments are going to be made based on that. So I just hope that it works out. I hope that for the sake of Shams, it works out. Tommy is in the first couple episodes so far. I bet you he's in throughout the season, but not much, dropping her off, picking her up, saying inappropriate things, which I have an opinion about, and we'll get into. But anyways, they show that wedding to kind of remind us of Tommy and MJ. Good to see that Gigi is back and she's still living off her dad. How lucky. Here I am trying to regain my life after destroying it in 2025 from shopping too much. Because, I'm clean and sober and my addiction manifested into something else, which was shopping. And now I'm broke and I have no one to help me. So lucky her. I'm saying this as a kind of a jealous person. Reza and Adam are still together, married for 10 years. Reza's definitely got older, but he is my mom's favorite. My mom absolutely loves Reza, says that he reminds her of her family members, so I can see that. We're introduced to Sky and Bamshad, new couple. They're so Persian. Initially, when I saw them, I'm like, oh my god, she's like every other Persian girl. Like has the blonde, dyes her hair blonde. She is 19 years younger than him, but they've been married for 17 years. That's kind of nice to see. Before they introduced the new couples, they actually showed Gigi's having a birthday party for Elijah. So Elijah's turning 5, and I think the last time that we saw him on the screens was she was pregnant or getting pregnant with him. Potentially could have had him. I don't remember exactly the last season of Stars of Sunset clearly, but it's great to see. Like, he's 5 years old. Oh my god, like it's crazy. Like, kids, honestly, if you parents, anybody, uncles, nephew, you have friends that have kids. If you gauge life by the age of kids and how fast they grow, it's like literally right before your eyes. You know, it's crazy. And then at the birthday, they show that Tanin is new to the group as well, and that's Gigi's girl. Like, Gigi's really close to Tanin, and then they go on to say that Tanin is actually really good friends with Sky. So that's how Sky and Bamshad came in, and Sky and Tanin are friends, and so now they're kind of getting into like the history of how everyone knows each other. So because Tanin is friends with Sky, and Sky is like some sort of a jeweler, worked for a jeweler, is a jeweler. Gigi had this gold ring that was broken or needed to be fixed, and she gave it to Sky, and it's been like 9 months that Sky has had it. I really don't know how I have an opinion on this. The only gold that I ever had, I sold, unfortunately, in a drug-fueled rage many, many years ago. So I'm scared of owning any other gold. But I know Persians pride on, and most cultures pride on having gold. It's a commodity that always raises in value. So, I'm just confused about why. I mean, I think there's more to the story that we don't know. But anyways, we're just shown that thus far, okay? And then it shows Natasha and Amir, and Natasha's a girl that's like really, really gorgeous, like, you know, young, gorgeous. Gigi met Natasha at Elijah's first day of school, and they became besties because Natasha's gorgeous, typical Persian girl. Gigi sees her, she's like, I don't care who that is, I need to be friends with her. Typical when you see a really hot person, you know, you're like, I need to be friends with that person, because I'm not saying this friendship, but typically you can attract fake friendships because you're like, I just want to be friends with her because she's hot, who knows who she knows, blah blah. We're used to this with Persians. It's happened to me before in my heyday, and you can tell when you dress up and you dress to the nines, everyone wants to know you. If you go out looking like a scrub, you're having a fat day, no makeup, mustache growing a little bit, eyebrows growing a little bit, hair's messy, you might not get as much attention, although some people do in that state. So that's not me, okay? The whole point of all this is that everyone's connected by Gigi. So this new kind of the Valley Persian style, Gigi is kind of like the main common denominator. Reza, Adam, and MJ and Tommy coming from the past, Shahs of Sunset. Tanin coming in as someone that she's known for a long time. Tanin introduces Sky and Bamshad. Natasha she meets at Elijah's school. And mind you, MJ goes to that school as well. MJ's son, Shams, does. So then it shows everyone's getting ready to head to the Airbnb that Gigi rented for Elijah's birthday. Tommy doesn't really want to be involved with the cast because when Maris was in hospital, no one came to visit her. And Tommy still holds a grudge against that. Not to mention the beef that he had with Reza. It was a criminality issue. He was charged. I think Reza might have dropped the charges at some point eventually, but even though MJ kind of, you know, and Reza and Golnessa became friends again, or Gigi became all friends again, Reza and Tommy still haven't spoken. So I'm just going through my notes, you guys, and as I'll go through it, I'll add my opinion, just like I normally do. But this time it's going to be more in depth. So Sky still didn't bring Gigi's ring. It's been 9 months, and I think I remember a point of Gigi being like, if she doesn't bring my ring, oh my god. So she calls someone, and the ring is literally like Uber to her. And in the meantime, Tanin and Greg, so we already have been introduced to Tanin, but Greg's her significant other. They're 10 years together, 6 married. Apparently Greg was a player and ladies' man. And I just laughed when I heard this, because I looked at him and I'm like, typical Persian guy. Not by looks, and I don't want to judge anyone by looks. I'm not really a looks judger, although not my type. I'm just going to be honest. And I'm not a lot of Persian men's type either. I'm very masculine energy, and Persian men love feminine energy. I look, but once you get to know me, I like to handle things myself. I'm a lot like Gigi, and I can see it now, and I'll get into that later, but people have always told me that. Except I think I'm a little bit more self-aware. I'm also sober, so that kind of adds that layer of self-awareness. But do we make the same mistakes? We sure do. And like I said, I'll get into it. I'm not attracted to Persian men. I don't understand the attraction. What's funny is I've had 3 very long-term boyfriends in my entire life. First one, guy I lost my virginity to, Persian. He was my staff at McDonald's, believe it or not. Yes, I worked at McDonald's when I graduated high school, and into high school, that's how I had to pay for my prom dress. We weren't rich, so my mom made me work, and that's how I paid for everything. And then after that, I had met my second Persian boyfriend who I dated for a very long time, almost 10 years. We're on and off for almost 10 years. And then after that, I dated a Russian guy. And that was a almost 3-year relationship, on and off. In between the Russian and the Persian, the second Persian guy, I had met my daughter's father, and that's how I became pregnant. But my second Persian boyfriend at that time, because I've only been with 3 men for a very, very long time. I had very long-term relationships. And hookups obviously in between, but relationship-wise, just been those 3. He came to help me with my daughter, so he's involved in her life. I'll get into this in my personal episodes, but my daughter's father is not involved, but his family is, so that's kind of nice. For reasons that, it's just, unfortunately, this is the way it works, but she has the benefit of knowing his entire family, and unfortunately, he's the one that's not around. So he's the one that really misses out in terms of my daughter's father, but she has her biological father's entire family. She has my ex-boyfriend who acts, as the male figure. She has my brother. She has my dad. I grew up with boys as well, and I'm the oldest, so I know how that feels, but she's surrounded by a lot of men. That's why for her, it's very easy to get along with boys. I find it's a lot harder for her to get along with girls, because with guys, they just let things slide. With girls, it's a lot of let's explain our feelings, and aside from me, who just babbles on and on and on, she's not as used to that, so she can go from 0 to 10 quite quick. That's totally the Persian in her. But I'm telling her, I'm sometimes with different types of people, you have to learn to speak. And sometimes I feel responsible because I do homeschool her at this time. I did take her out of Canada because I just don't want her to be surrounded by all that drug use. And we were from Vancouver, you guys. It's the fentanyl capital of the world. They have free drug use programs where they give people clean fentanyl so they don't go get heroin off the streets that might have fentanyl so they die. It was becoming bad. I took her out of there. I feel like my decision will be best in the long run, but sometimes these little things I feel responsible. Could it be because I pulled her out of something where she has to mingle with people a little bit more, or is that just a Vancouver thing? Is it just because you're from Vancouver you become that way? You know what I mean? Anyways, back to the whole Persian thing. Wow, I totally went off on a tangent. My daughter does sometimes say, she's like, "Mommy, I wish I was full Persian," because her other side is Norwegian, Italian, German. I'm like, "Oh, baby, you're half. Don't worry, it's good. You got the good half. Not as hairy, lighter colored." Anyways, just totally went off on a tangent. Sorry about that. So, they jump back and forth through the scenes. So after, they explain that, Greg was a player, Tanin Greg. They show that Sky and Robin go for lunch and talk about how they don't sleep in beds with their husbands anymore. Trust me, I understand this. I don't know if it's a Persian thing. I'm not even in a relationship, but I've always felt like it's nice to have something separate. Come together at night and smooch and do whatever. Or sometimes even sleep together. Sure, watch a movie, fall, sleep together. But have that within the house so that if need be, you're kind of cranky tonight or bloated or he's fallen asleep first and he's snoring and you can't fall asleep, you can go to your own bed. You know what I mean? And definitely for sure have your own washrooms. That's what I think. After the second boyfriend, when I dated the Russian guy, I never went to the washroom in front of him. He never heard anything, nothing. I just kept it. There's going to be a sexy element. If you show too much, which we'll get into because it comes into the show, I feel like you just lose that sexiness of it. You know what I mean? And some people might argue with me on this, but I feel like that's why people look at other men, women, because there's still a boundary up that they haven't crossed yet. So they can still make it sexy, And I think that, with that being said, I think that as men and women and humans, we have we have a higher consciousness than animals. Like, we don't just think on instinct. We can't actually rationalize things. So if you're with a man or woman that cheats or leaves just because you've gone to the washroom in front of them, that's not right either. Like, through didn't you make vows? And I've never been married, but through thick and thin, you know, or I don't know what the vows is, but like, you know, and sometimes it can be exhausting to always have to go run to use the other washroom. But for the most part, I think that these are just little things that if I were to ever get married, I would kind of try to commit to, so that, you know, it's not full out there. He's already going to see me cry and bitch and get in fights with my family or people on the street. So no, let's just keep a little thing sexy and you know. Anyways, wow, tangents. It's so cute when Amir was telling the boys about his first wife who died of cancer, and the reason I find this cute is because they were having a boys' night, and he was kind of just explaining to them what had happened, and they really had his back. And me and my daughter looked at each other and were like, it's so cute how they're kind of like supporting him through it. I'm also so curious what Natasha will think if she sees Amir talking like this, like if this episode airs about his ex. Although part of me says that out of all the guys so far that I've seen, he seems like the most really involved. Okay. Not because he's better than the other guys, but I think because he's gone through something like this where he already has lost someone that he's really loved. He's found another woman, gorgeous woman, able to have kids with her, where he was struggling with his previous wife, and I'm sure the cancer had played a part, but like, and now he's such a much more committed husband than he probably may have been before. He's involved in his kids' life. He's so much more hands-on because he's experienced that, you know? I've always talked about this in my other episodes, but sometimes it sucks that death has to hit first, or a tragedy has to strike first before you really appreciate what you've had. But it seems to be the common theme in human life. You always want to see your parents more until one passes, and then you wish that you could have just seen them more. When you could have made that work when they were alive and you knew that they were sick, and it's just coulda, woulda, shoulda. And I feel like because he's kind of experienced it, it's helped. So when I think about Natasha looking at these scenes, I'm like, it could go two ways. She could be totally upset and be like, wow, I can see that he's still in love with her, which would bite. But you also have to remember, okay, but she's gone, so it's not really as much of a threat as weird and terrible as it sounds saying that. And he's actually such a better husband because of that. But again, does she have something to compare that to? She only knows what she has in front of him. She hasn't really gone through a tragedy like that herself, or maybe experienced another husband to see that he's like that good. So this is just, you know, assumptions, but I can just imagine, because I know if it was me, I'm Persian, and I'm just gonna be like, oh, so you fucking love her, so go be single or go find someone that you can be with. You know, I'd go nuts. I don't know, I'm crazy. I'd just go nuts. That's why I'm single, guys. In my notes, I said, hopefully she's grateful for her husband because he's learned from his ex how to be their first family and to make his family in the forefront. And I think that that's a plus that you can take away. If there's anything, take that, you know. Gigi meets Reza and Adam for coffee, and when Reza is explaining to her that she didn't get approved for a house because of her credit, he tries to give her advice on it. And she walks off. She walks off, okay? She completely leaves the scene. Not that it's, like, scripted, but, like, she just leaves. You can see Reza kind of look at production and be like, okay, wow, that went left. My mom always told me I was like Gigi, and I kind of see it now. First of all, being like Gigi, I smoked tons of weed. I actually made a post today on my Instagram. I've been three years off of the weed, and that's the longest I've ever not smoked it since I started smoking at 18, okay? 4 years sober as well, and 7 years no cigarettes. And that is all January 1st. So January 1st, 2019 is my clear date, because clear means no cigarettes, nicotine. January 1st, 2022 is my sobriety date, and January 1st, 2023 is my clean date. Clean means drugs, but drugs also stopped with the drinking, but I was California sober, so to speak, so I still smoked weed for that 1 year, and then one thing at a time, right, guys? Anyways, so heavy into that. So when she was saying that she spends $4,000 a month on weed, I understood it, although I didn't pay that much, but I did smoke that. I did smoke that much, but I didn't have to pay that much. Like, I always had sources for it, or I would get a better price. And mind you, my heyday of smoking weed was before the dispensaries became legal in Vancouver. So when that happened, that became even more expensive, And I think that wasn't part of the reason, but it was just more I needed clarity. And also, I'm very heavy into fitness, and I'm already a ADHD, and I overeat and I binge eat. So smoking weed didn't really help, I literally just lost 10 pounds from smoking weed, So, but she did say that she does want to buy a place. And unfortunately, she's overspending. And that can also go against your credit. It's not that you don't pay stuff. It's just that you overspend. So your income is a certain amount and you're overspending. So that's happened to me when I was making great money. And like I had credit cards canceled because they're like, you do make good money. You're always paying your bills on time. Your credit card's always paid per month. I never had overbalances. Even one month I paid just the minimum just to kind of like keep it like, oh yeah, I need you guys. But because my spending was more than how much I was making, they canceled my credit card. And that was looking out for them, so that it doesn't get to a point where I need to rely on them for it. So they look at stuff like that. It's not just how, if you're paying it off every month and if you don't have any debt, it's, are you spending against how much you're making? And I think that's the case for her because I cannot see her being in debt, but I can see her spending a lot when she doesn't necessarily have income. Because we all know that her dad's paid for it, and she even said herself, the only checks that she's ever got in her life was when she was on Shaw's of Sunset. She's never actually held a job before in her life. Mind you, she does have these businesses that she started. We haven't seen the books on that. We don't know how much she's making, how much she's not making. We don't know. And the advice that Reza was telling her is to just try to not spend so much, like downsize, and we see later on, I think in episode 2, where she's like, she just needs 3 bedrooms alone for her wardrobe. That is another thing that I understood. But there are some parts of GG that like, I don't think like, I'm like I cannot, I don't have the energy to fight with people like she does. Like I actually used to be a big fighter and now I just walk away from the issues. Like I can fight back verbally, but when it gets to a point where I'm draining too much of my energy, I don't go all in. I just kind of like walk away. And I think part of the mood swings that she might have might be from the smoking of the weed. And I know weed makes you calm, but also when you don't smoke it, or you have to kind of keep a certain threshold, you do have these crazy mood swings. So I'm not a doctor, I can't diagnose it, but I do see some things. Yeah, I understand now, although I used to hate when my mom used to say that. But her walking off, I get it. It's kind of an embarrassing topic, and I don't think that I think she wants solutions rather than like, let's talk about her spending. Looking from the outside in, I think I would react the same way, but also looking from the outside in, I understand that they're not necessarily telling her how to spend her money, they're just giving her advice to make it look better for purchasing a home in the future, Now, it's Persian night at Natasha Amir's house. Natasha has a Persian night at her house. Reza Jacks is there, and he's a comedian that I've always seen on social media. But now he's on the Valley Persian cell. And Natasha and Amir want to introduce him to their neighbor, Sophia. Now, this is funny, odd story. Just before I came to record this podcast, I saw on, I think it was, no, not TikTok, Instagram, that this is the same Sophia that was with LeBron James. And then the reality TV Instagram account that I saw this from was like, it's funny that they didn't use her last name. Why didn't they use her last name? She's very well known in LA. So there's some tea, guys. I don't know if it's her or not. I didn't do my research. I just jumped on to do this. But yeah, they're trying to get him to hook up or to date Sophia, who's their neighbor, but I'm not sure if she's Persian. She doesn't seem like it, but yeah. Anyways, as everyone's arriving, Mercedes gets there first. She kind of chats with Reza, and they talk about Gigi's kind of like credit. And they don't really talk about her credit score. They're just like, oh, this sucks to see her like not being able to get what she wants. But as soon as she walks in the door, Mercedes goes up to her and says, we've been talking about you. Which honestly, like, why would you? I agree with Reza, because Reza's like, why would you say that right when she walks in the door? It's something that you didn't even have to mention, because nothing bad was even being said. You guys were just like, this sucks. Like, I wish I could do something for her. I did tell her to do this. You're just kind of, from what I heard, it wasn't negative. But when you go up to her and you approach her like that to try to prep her for like, yeah, we were talking about it, it's almost like as if something negative was happening. And she's already feeling a type of way about that. So I don't know how I feel about it. The only opinion that I have is like they hijacked her night. Mercedes did by going in right away and telling her that. Like, it was just unnecessary. And I know Mercedes, I'm trying to be the loyal friend, tell you everything. But nothing was being said, so you kind of made something out of nothing, you know? Anyway, she leaves, and that's how the night ends. So that's episode 1. Episode 2 starts off with Tanin's mom popping over to bring food, which is exactly what every Persian mom does. Okay. I remember, again, the second boyfriend that I had that was Persian, his mom always made Persian food, and he would always come, because for a while he stayed with me and Mercedes, and he would always come and bring us some. And, you know, like, I miss those days. I miss the days that my mom used to cook for me, and I miss the days that, like, his mom used to cook for us, and because she had a stroke, so unfortunately she can't cook anymore, and we just took those days for granted. And me and Mercedes say that, my daughter Mercedes, that when we go back to Vancouver, we just cannot wait to go to a Persian restaurant because we haven't found anything in where we are in the Baja in Mexico. But I'm pretty sure Mexico City might have a large Persian community, so Persian food. Unfortunately, we haven't had a chance to get out there quite yet. Nor do I think that I might ever live in a big city like Mexico City because I'm from a big city. So I don't know what the future holds. But all I know is that where I live, there's not really much variety. You have Asian food, but then I see it's like Spanish chefs. Not that they can't cook Asian food, but I just feel like when you go to authentic places, it's always like, you know, if it's really authentic, it's like a Japanese chef or like a Chinese chef or a Persian chef or a Persian cook. You know what I mean? Like, with that being said, I have had some great sushi in the Baja, but like it's a little bit different from back home. I mean, think about it. I'm from Vancouver. I'm from the West Coast. Like every type of culture with their food is there, Indian, everything. Again, I'm living in a small city now. I'm pretty sure when I go to a bigger city like Mexico City, I mean, they have a Vietnamese community there, you know? They have huge, I was so not open-minded, and I thought that like maybe Vancouver or places like that, like where the whites came in and they took over, where the indigenous were the only places that had huge like migration and immigration. But then the last time that I came to Mexico in 2023, when I went to Cabo, actually, I met a huge Romanian population, and I asked the guy, I'm like, how are you Romanian and you're living here? No, it's just like anybody else that's moved anywhere. But I love this. These are the conversations I love having with people because I am from a multicultural place. So I always look at things like I love the comedians that like make fun of the ethnicities, like the Russell Peters or the Jim Gaffigans. You know, like those are my favorite comedians because they always look at it, or even Ari Spears. They always look at it from an ethnic point of view. And some of my friends don't necessarily like those types of comedies because they're ethnic, but they've grown up in Vancouver and they don't look at everything ethnically, but I am Persian and I look at everything ethnically. Like, oh, my mom would never do that. Oh, I'd get beat if I did that. Oh, and you know what I mean? Like, even though I'm so adapted and whitewashed, like, I still look at everything culturally and ethnically. And so those are the type of things that I gravitate towards. And anyway, so I was talking to the Romanian guy from Cabo, and he said, in the 1800s, when the Europeans had come over, we were kind of on the strip because you know how California is separated from the Baja, and hence why it's called the Baja California Sur, and it stayed in Mexico. And he's like, so I come from a long line of gypsies from the late 1800s, and so we just kind of like landed here. Eventually, we moved more south and south. Just like I think one of my episodes, I talked about how the Greeks came over from after or close to World War One, post World War One, and they kind of settled in Salt Lake City because there was a huge mining community there. So they all came out and they did kind of those jobs that are required to mine. You know, there's a huge Chaldean. I didn't even know what Chaldean was until I listened to the podcast of the TRH podcast, and they're Middle Eastern, so they're similar to they're similar to Syrians. But they're Catholic. They're not necessarily Muslims. I don't think Syrians. I think like Armenians, Syrians, they're more Catholic anyways. Like they're the Arab cultures that are Catholic. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I didn't know that. But then a lot of them migrated and immigrated to the Detroit area in Michigan. So there's a huge community out there. Like I love learning things like this. It's fascinating to me. I love it. Because knowing little tidbits like that explains so many things, like present wise. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, I totally went off topic. I'm telling you, like, these Persian ones are going to be crazy. So yeah, I think that the Persian mom is making the food. Back to that. It's just their way of staying involved, and I do miss it. I hope one day that I can make the same foods. I have to get to a place where I have the kitchen space for it, because right now we're kind of in a small place that we're renting. We're just kind of regaining our life and making our way here. But if I have a full kitchen and all the ingredients, I'd love to learn, and I can't wait back to go home and eat it. But definitely Persian mom's way of being involved. Gigi and Elijah meet with Natasha and her son Roman for a play date. And in that kind of scene, Gigi expresses how she needs to downsize, because right now she is paying a lot for rent. But in downsizing, she's right now in a 6-bedroom, and she can't imagine being anything less, because most of her rooms are her closets. And this is honestly, my daughter even looked at me when they said that. My daughter's like, that's you. This is kind of what I say, that I'm similar to her in that sense as well. The budgeting aspect, and I have lots of clothes. Mind you, I'll get into this in one of my personal episodes, because this really ties into my personal life and how I am the way that I am. I'm an addict, so I haven't done drugs or alcohol, but my addiction manifested into shopping. And 2025, I got into the best shape of my life because I had surgery before. I gained a little bit more weight. After my daughter was born, I did bodybuilding competitions, but then when she got a little bit older, my life kind of went into a hectic life, and I gained the weight and I never was able to lose it. Then I had some cosmetic surgery, so I had to put on weight for that. And then I kind of never lost it. But in 2025, I lost it. So new body, new me. I was turning 40. I went shopping. I went overboard, guys. I have a storage room still back home, and my mom has a spare bedroom in her apartment that she just bought. And it's all my clothes. Most of my clothes and some furniture that I haven't opened yet. So I understand that with Gigi. The only difference is I have no one to support me. My brother does right now a little bit to help me when I need to have ends meet. My mom does what she can, but luckily I've paid off some things on my debt to put me kind of at a neutral spot where I don't have much debt. I'm just kind of like paying things back now. Like when we first moved here, I didn't really even have money to rent, believe it or not. So the guy that I'm renting this place from was nice enough. He's like, you can pay me the deposit in chunks, which is finally paid off. So now I have a little bit more money from the money that is coming in for me monthly out of my income to put towards a debt repayment and savings. But it was rough. So that's kind of where I'm maybe jealous of her. And I'm like, no, we're not the same at all. Anyways, I really starting to like Sky. There's just something about her that I like. Every Persian guy, they're talking about Persian guys snoring, and they snore like crazy. And honestly, Persians get so offended when you mention that they snore, because I guess Sky and Bamshad at the Persian night were having a discussion about how they sleep in separate rooms. I've had, when I was in my fat phase, actually my friend, the middle boyfriend, the second boyfriend, I want to say, because we're still pretty close. I'm close to all of them except for the first one. I'm just that kind of person, guys. They know what they've lost. No, just kidding. I'm just nice, and I feel like sometimes when you have connections with people, it's hard to lose it. But anyways, he sent me a video of my fat days in 2022, 2023, when I was snoring so loud. And sometimes when I go through these these will be in my personal conversation pods, but when I go through these phases where I overeat and I put on weight, not fat, but weight for like a couple weeks, I do start to snore again, because I'm like 10 pounds over what I normally am. But once I regulate and I get back into a routine and whatnot, that disappears. So I think that that's for me as a woman, because I do have videos of me snoring. It's when it happens when I'm like overweight for my body. But most Persian guys snore. I think most men in general snore, and it can be crazy. Like if you can't fall asleep, or like sometimes if I fall asleep first, great, I don't hear it. But if I'm in a state where like I'm awake and I'm trying to fall asleep, and especially with the ADHD, and I've medicated during the day and I'm like irritable now at night, there's no way I'm falling asleep. I need my own kind of room, But they get so offended. Persian guys get so offended. I think part of what offended Bamshad from that conversation at Persian night was that it was said in front of other people, and that he might feel like Sky is listening to other people's opinions. Because when they're having this conversation at their kitchen table, he's like, you also snore? And she kind of seems to get offended, but who cares? People snore. It's what they do in their sleep. I think it's and he seems like a lean guy. He's not a big guy, and typically snores or like when you're overweight, or but it's also definitely something to get checked and looked into. I know when I used to snore, my doctor recommended me to go to a sleep apnea specialist, but then that disappeared. And my daughter will tell me, she's like, "Mom, you were snoring so loud last night." Like, but those are the phases that I go through where I binge eat. It's really weird how it's connected. I'm not a doctor. I don't want to get into it. Might get into it in some of the personal episodes, but yeah. Anyways. So this is where I'm kind of different from most Persians, and I've already mentioned this. I think it's okay to have separate sleep areas. It doesn't have to be every night. You can still, have your separate washrooms, have your separate room, come together at night, have a movie night, smooch. Some nights sleep together, and some nights when you're irritated, at least you're going to the bedroom that's like down the hall rather than like leaving the home completely in general and going to a completely different space. Who cares? Have your own room. There's men caves, there's women caves. Have a bed in there. I don't think there's anything bad. It becomes bad once you're in there and you're lonely. And when you're lonely, you're not going to your wife or your husband, and you're doing other weird things like on your Tinder or your dating apps, or like, still have a sex life, but you can still sleep separate. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Maybe I'm too Americanized, but I still want to be Persian. I don't know. It's weird. So Tommy and MJ go for their date night, and it's crazy again to see them at this date night because of what I had to talk about at the beginning of the episode. I know they're divorcing as we speak, and I used to listen to their podcast. I do like Tommy, like I said. I don't necessarily, I understand MJ, like in this scene, like Tommy's talking about diarrhea, and like he's just being so inappropriate, and like she's dressed so elegantly and nicely, and she put an effort to go out for this date night, and like she's also like kind of a pillar in her community in the sense like she's a realtor. Like there's this level, I'm not saying that she's trying to be fake, but there's a level of thing that you have to uphold, and him talking about diarrhea and farting, and just like, we know that you're like that, but can you just hold it off for the show at least? Like, I get her in that situation. And also, what's the point? Again, I've mentioned this of being involved of being together if he never wants to be involved in anything that she does. Like, he's just so like happy, like living this life where he's just kind of like tagging along. I'm not saying on her coattails. He does his own he makes his own money, but like literally, like you're gonna be happy like this for the rest of your life. I'm Persian, and sometimes it's just never enough for me, and I get her. I like she's tried it and it's just not working for her, so I understand how it came to this point. And just the bickering and how he was taunting her in that podcast episode that I told you guys at the beginning, like not taunting her in a mean way, but like, I told you so. Like, it's just like, okay, we get it. These are the overbearing parts that I think that she has an issue with. Nothing to do with his parenting. He's a great dad. He makes his own money. He's there for champs. It's these kind of things that I think drove her to the edge. Yeah, and so again, the thing that really kind of bothered me here is how inappropriate he's being. They're on a date night trying to be like not classy. Like, we all know who you guys are, but like at least just try, like just say I gotta go to the washroom. The cameras are up, and like, and like I said, the whole point of having separate washrooms is so that you keep a little bit of sexiness, and like you're on a date night. She dressed nice. Like, it's not like you guys are in scrubs and sweats. Like, just try, because she's obviously making that effort. Anyways, Greg and Amir and Reza meet up for coffee. Amir tells the boys that he never goes to the washroom in front of your, don't ever go to the washroom in front of your woman. What did I say? I agree. Again, I never did it with two out of the three of the long-term boyfriends. Then they start chatting about how it can go to feel stale in a wedding. And I feel like for most of them, the honeymoon stage has passed, like anything. I think even Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker, yeah, their honeymoon stage is probably always past. Here's the thing about people in long-term relationships that I envy. It does take effort, and it's an effort that I'm not willing to put in. I'd rather put that into other things. Maybe it's the autism in me that I'm just self-diagnosing now at 40. I don't know, but like I always hated being around people, and I'm like, what's the point of putting this much energy into people when I could put it into other things like the gym or my business or my house or my looks or I think I go too far with that, but I also agree that like I am ADHD, so I like the dopamine rush. I do like the honeymoon stage, and when that's over, I really think that it's completely over. That next set of hard work, unfortunately, I've never seen because I haven't come from a very healthy household where the relationship has been figured out or they could talk through problems. My parents unfortunately didn't. they would yell at each other and don't forget it completely happened. So I kind of adapted that sort of problem solving when it comes to my issues. Although now that I'm aware of it, there's maybe 1 or 2 relationships in my life with my friends currently that I really put the effort in because I want to stay friends with them. And it doesn't help that I moved away, but we do try to have our nights. So we have like FaceTimes and whatnot, but it is hard work. And I can only do it for 2 or 3 friends. So I envy the people like the Sheena Shays that can like talk to everybody and have like, I can do that. I can talk to people, and I'm really good at socializing, and I'm a very good social. I have great energy. That's what everyone tells me. Anyways, I know that about myself, but it's like, do I want to constantly be pouring out of this cup and pouring into that cup? It's like a choice, you know? But if I have to, I will, and I'm great at it, and that's something that I'm very confident in. So I think that's why I'm a little bit more selective in who I do that with, and sometimes I just don't want to at all because I have the confidence that I have it. Anyways, wow, tangent. Greg explains to the men how there was an accident where Tanin almost died, and perhaps that they're trauma bonded, because it seems like Tanin and Sky, since they've met each other, they do more things together, and they kind of leave the guys out. And I can see that, like, you just have fun with your girlfriends, you know? Maybe they are trauma bonded, because I feel like Tanin is also kind of saying the same thing, like, and they get into a scene here where Tanin and Greg are kind of on a date night, and Greg doesn't like Tanin going out with men and checking her out, and that's totally a typical Persian guy. He can go out and look at everything, but he doesn't want when someone looks at his woman. Whereas I find white culture is so different, because like North American culture is like, oh, I love that she's looking at my woman. Yeah, she's with me. You can't have her. Like, see the difference in mentality, right? But Tanin brings up that Greg has given his number out and his IG out, and looking from the outside in, like, typical Persian man doesn't want his wife doing it, because I feel like he's doing it. But he's Armenian Persian too, by the way, guys. But I think that what this boils down to, because I don't really want to talk about it, because this is like every relationship, they always have this issue. There's like this big problem of cheating in North America. Like, you just think that the options are endless, especially with the advent of social media and all these dating apps. And I think part of it is just feeling wanted. I think that's where we kind of lose people in the relationships, because when you can go on the dating apps and you can go out and look spiffy and people don't know who you are, that first night you're getting attention that you normally don't get anymore at home. And that's why I love being the person not in a relationship, because when I go out, people are looking at me like, who is that girl? I've never seen her before. God damn, she's beautiful. But once a guy starts to get used to me and how I look, when we go out together, now he's checking out other girls. And that's where I'm like, I'm out. Because if you're with me, you pay attention to me. You can look. There's people, like, you got to have your eyes open. You're not going to crash into people. But the minute that you start checking them out when I'm sitting right next to you, I'm out. And this is why it doesn't go that far from me. So I boil it down to, that's exactly what this is. That's why you do want the attention from the person that's out there. It's not necessarily that you want to go bang them, but that when you're out with your buddies or girlfriends, that attention feels nice. People staring at you like, who is this? That look that they give you, like they really want to get to know you. And maybe it's me, the ADHD queen that needs that dopamine rush. That feels good, you know? So that's what I can boil it down to. But they do talk about that. And everyone wants to feel wanted. It's common for marriages to experience this. But I think, again, looking from the outside in, and this is only from the outside in because I didn't get this far in any type of relationship, the only way that you can move forward is to communicate it. Now, whether the communication becomes a buzzkill or you can actually work through it and find solutions, that's completely up to the partners in that relationship. But I think you really have to get specific in what you want. And you should know your partner the best out of everybody. Is he capable? Is she capable of giving you that? You went into this, you're 10 years deep, 2 years deep, 2 months deep. You should know what you're getting yourself into. So I see that and I'm like, I see other relationships where I see the husband and he's just all focused on the girl, but it's just not my type of guy. But I end up with the guys that always want to check out other girls. Like maybe someone would call them fuckboys or douchebags. Maybe that's a me issue. So I just keep it where I'm just the person that I know how I look like when I get all dolled up and I go out. I know who I am. I know how I look like. Do I always want to portray that attention? No, it gets exhausting. I get exhausted when people look at me when I'm in sweats. And then when I'm in sweats and I don't get checked out sometimes, I'm like, why is no one looking at me? So, I have my own issues. But one thing I can tell you is I'm not going to go out with a guy who, when he's with me, treats me like he could be with anybody else. Absolutely not. Because when I'm with someone and I like them, the only way I go out with guys is because I only want that person. Nobody else, like, I don't even think about any other guy. But that's just me, and not everyone can think like me, and I've learned that. But I'll be damned if I settle for somebody that is going to go out and try to get all these numbers. And I don't mind, like, at this point in my life, I don't mind if my man is nice. You can hold the door. What if the girl in behind you thinks that holding the door means that you're going to fucking sit down and eat her out, like, then she's the crazy one, you know? Before I was like, you have to be mean to everybody. But no, I want a man that's nice to everybody. Don't be nice to the waiters, but then mean to the girl that's walking behind you, you know, like, nice to everybody, but equally, you know, not overly nice to people, but also at the same time as a man, and can put up boundaries, be like, I really appreciate you telling me that I look great. I am a married man, and I'm just not interested. Not like, oh, I don't think my wife would like that, but if I was single, yeah, you know, like, put off that energy. No, thank you so much, not interested. I'm in a very happy relationship. Something like that, you know, like, does it exist? I don't know. I'm still single. That's just the dream, guys. Again, sometimes communication can be a buzzkill, but, you know, where you water your garden continuously is going to be where you're going to get the plants that grow. And if you keep garden hopping and you just keep watering plants that you see that might need some water, you're never going to be there to see the full garden bloom and grow. And I just made that up on the spot, but it's not great. It was in my notes. One thing that I do love about Persians, that being said, is that they are honest about this kind of stuff. I don't know, like, the common theme here is that people are not happy in their relationships. I don't know if we've just hit the 10-year mark, or this is just a Persian thing where we're just constantly never happy and we kind of want more. I know that can be sometimes a Persian thing. But I've seen Persians in very happy relationships, and I've seen couples, let's take the ethnicity out of this, that can work through it and can be happy. Mind you, there's some factors working against them. Again, they're Persian. Again, they live in LA. So anything's at their fingertips. And Reza said it at the beginning of the first episode. Persians know your income, what you're driving, who you're with, what you wear that day, what you do for a living. They are nosy fucks, you know? So there's a whole bunch of things that can work against you. And I know for Persians, one of the things that, you know, it also is a bad characteristic is that we care to a point what others think. Some not as much, and some way too much. We like to look good, and we can't help that we're fucking great looking, you know, and the boys are mama's boys, the girls are, you know, are little rich daddy's girls like GG, not me. But, you know, like, these are the things that work against us, and I can say it because I'm Persian, so told you I'd be judgy. Anyways, Gigi meets up with Reza and Mercedes, and they start again talking about her finances. And I just want to touch on this because they say that now she's an OnlyFans. She's doing OnlyFans. But Mercedes pipes up and says, I can't see her doing this. Like, she's too much of a good girl. I can't see her going like full nudity and whatnot. And Reza started laughing. He's like, no wonder like you haven't lowered your price or anything. And this is kind of where I'm kind of like her as well. Like, instead of downsizing, I'm going to kind of like make my way up, you know, and I've always been that way. Like, I want so much that I've never been the type to be like, okay, I'm content with just making this much a month. I got to like make my lifestyle this much. I've always been like, let me live that lifestyle so that I can figure out a way to make more to get to even more of that lifestyle, you know? Maybe my mentality is wrong. I do take such big risks, and I don't have a Gigi's dad to help me out, you know? But yeah, that's just my opinion on that. I think OnlyFans is the next step for me too, guys. Woo. Anyways, the last part of episode 2 is when Vida takes Tommy to help him out. And I think because, MJ had a conversation with Vida earlier, and Vida was asking, I don't really remember. I didn't take much notes. I didn't find it as important, but they were just having a mother-daughter talk. And MJ, I think, told Vida, you know, I'm not as happy and I don't feel a certain way. And Vita's like, but you're like 7 years in and you're feeling like this? Like, it shouldn't be like this. Like, there should be other things that are important at 7 years in, you know? Now, with that being said, Vida is one to talk. Vida also didn't have the most successful relationship, and then she didn't get remarried, you know? She's also very judgmental and very opinionated. Okay, but let's just say we're all this way. We're all Persians and we're this way. I think that when she wanted to go out with Tommy, which is the last scene of episode 2, she really was trying to be on Tommy's side, to be like, look, MJ's not happy. But Tommy took it as if she was criticizing him. And I think that this is where Tommy really needs to, pull up those pants and be like, this is just the way that she is. And I think that she was trying to give me advice. And I think now in hindsight, Tommy looking back at this can see that she was trying to help. But in the moment, he kind of gets offended and defensive. Because Tommy I've seen so much growth from Tommy just from the podcast of listening to him, and again, when you're in it, it's different, but when you can kind of look back, which is nice to be filmed sometimes, because you can't have those moments where you can kind of look back, or have a podcast where you can go back and listen. But I think that, and I don't have the best opinion sometimes about Vida. I'm like, wow, she's so toxic. And we all have that toxic parent that we just, especially in the Middle Eastern community, like I've heard like the Chaldean girls that have the podcast, the TRH podcast, talk about this as well. You just kind of bite your tongue because, they're older and they don't necessarily mean it. And this is just the way that they've learned to talk. So North American culture would be like, cut that bitch off. Like, she can't be this toxic. She's giving me trauma triggers. But like, we just kind of learn like this is how they are. And if you really are empathetic with your parents or your family members as they grow older, especially the older ones, you realize that their generation, and I've talked about this in some of the housewives recaps, that this is just what they know. This is how they speak. I think to have a peace of mind for you, you get to a point where you realize that this is not what they intend on doing. This is just how they are, doesn't excuse it. It just kind of lessens the blow a little bit more. Like, you realize it might not be 100% directed at you, the tone of voice. It's just their tone of voice. I've learned that about my mom. Sometimes her tone, I'm like, oh, the way she speaks. Then I'm like, this is just how she enunciates words. This is where she puts the emphasis on words. It seems like it's an attack, but if you translate it to Farsi or to Persian, that's how it is in Persian. So then you do it in English and it seems more aggressive in English, So I've had to make these tweaks so that I could live better and still have a relationship with my mom. And don't get me wrong, I have these moments where I kind of get into it with my parents, but it's just pointless. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. But now that I'm aware, maybe I can change for my own kid, But anyways, getting back to Tommy and Vida, I think Vida is taking Tommy out to talk to him that MJ's not happy as a way of helping Tommy. And again, Tommy gets defensive. Tommy gets offended. And he's like, well, she should just get a divorce if she's not happy. And I think this comes to bite him in the ass because that's exactly what she does. And I think he didn't understand the severity of it then, because now when I do hear him do the solo podcast, which is very far and few in between, he does say, I hope that we can work this out. We're still trying to figure out, like, if this is the direction that we want to go. And I think MJ wanted full custody. And I can see, because like she does have a conversation with Tommy how Shamps is picking up on his habits and kind of mimicking everything that he does, and like now beat it, like you look great, now beat it, which is something like Tommy would say. And I think Tommy needs to be a little bit more mindful of that. Like, it might be cute, but like if the kid actually picks up on this and that becomes his way of speaking, it's not going to be so easy to try to reverse, So, yeah, and one thing about Persian women, though, I do have to say, and I know that Tommy is just, and I just saw this in my notes, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about this, is that as Persian women, one thing I know, and okay, I'll speak for myself as a Persian woman, I will try. But the minute I'm not trying anymore, because I don't give a damn, and it's so hard to make me give a damn once I stop. But we will try for years. But when it comes to the point that we stop, it's because we've stopped giving a damn, and we can't go backwards. So I feel like MJ has reached that point. But I feel like Tommy is still trying to, or attempting to make it work, and that's great on him. And I really hope for the, because I did love their dynamic, that it works. It's sad to see the podcast go. I loved when they did the together ones, and when he did the Shaws of Sunset recap. Maybe I should start doing that. I should cut down one of my show and just do a Shaws of Sunset recap, because I'm Persian and I understand it, but God, I don't know if I can sit there and watch like Asa and stuff again. I just go crazy. I barely have time to watch the ones that are new and up to date. Like, imagine I have to go back and sit. I haven't even watched Gossip Girl since before my family came. I just don't have the time. I've missed so many of the podcasts that I used to listen to regularly. Like, in a way, I'm like, okay, good. That means I'm doing the things that like I'm supposed to be doing, because I'm not caught up. And typically people that, have a life, they can't watch all the shows that they're meant to, or, I know I listen to Sheena Shea and she's like, oh, I have a huge list of things I have to watch and I haven't gotten to. And same with Paige and Hannah on Giggly Squad. Same with all these other podcast host, because I do listen to podcasts quite a bit. But with that being said, I think that now that I'm more into the podcast world, it just, sometimes I just don't want to be watching a show, because I do some recaps, and sometimes I don't want to watch things that are so heavy, because I do talk about heavy things on my podcast, and I am going through heavy things with my mental health and in life in general. So I understand it now. But anyways, with that being said, for a selfish reason, I do hope that they come back together, because I did love the podcast, and for their own sakes, because I thought that they were going to really make it through and get there for a long time. And sometimes you might need this, where, how about Stacey on Potomac? Didn't she divorce Timu, and now they're trying to get back together? Sometimes when it's final, or you go through an experience like this, you can come back together stronger. So who knows what the future holds? One thing is leading to another. But so far, the first 2 episodes of the Valley Persian style, so it ended up being Persian style. Remember, I was telling you they were fighting about that at the end of the podcast. It's great. I love it. Love the music. I love how they just handwrite in Farsi. I even messaged my mom, you guys got to watch it. It's so good. Mercedes loves it. My daughter Mercedes loves it. It's just good to see them back on our screens and representation. And it's also, they're in the Valley now, they have homes and lives with kids and businesses, and it's different than, when it was Shaw's, Shaw's was they were just kind of getting up on their feet, and yeah, it's nice that they're back on their screens. And that's it for now, you guys. So I will come with another recap next week, probably just obviously 1 episode. I'll probably do the Persian one separate, because I do have much more opinions on it and much more things to say about it. So I'll keep it separate, so I can just keep babbling and kind of refer to my own life in it as well. But yay, that was great. I love it. I think that for sure this is going to be a show that I'm going to keep in my recaps. I was thinking, I don't know how many more shows I can really do. I'm going to do Traders, but not a full recap, just what I think of it so far in my next episode, which will be Southern Charm and Real Housewives of Potomac. I'll do a little quick Traders recap, but I cannot. I don't have the time to sit there and take notes. Sometimes I just want to watch, and even if I watch, it might be 2-3 weeks later than everybody, so I don't have the time to really keep up with it. And I know that if I want to stay consistent, I have to. And I know I missed my Monday motivation. I'm so sorry. I will put out a very special Friday episode that's going to be personal. And then I promise you guys next week, I'm not even trying to be Tommy and MJ here, but next week I will follow the schedule. Okay, I promise. I just needed those few weeks to catch up. It was kind of a hard Christmas break for me mentally, so I'm kind of getting back into it. And if you guys could please just reach out and just let me know how you're feeling. Again, if you haven't subscribed to my podcast, please go subscribe on I'm on Apple Podcasts, I'm on Spotify, I'm on iHeartRadio, I'm on Podbean. Those are the ones that I have so far. I'm on Amazon Music. If you could subscribe, that'd be awesome. You guys, I have a website, www.thepursuitofhappinessnos.com. Please go check that out as well, or find me on my socials. On my website, I do have a page under if you go to www.thepursuitofhappinessnos.com, it's all in the show notes as well. You can go to the podcast page, and then at the scroll to the bottom, you can leave me a voice note. Leave me a voice note if you have questions, feedback. Please, I would love to hear from you guys. I can see the numbers starting to roll in, but I just don't have any kind of leverage quite yet. So just communicate with me, see how you're liking it. I also have a YouTube. If you can go subscribe to my YouTube, I'm trying to get that monetized as well. I would so appreciate that. I really do love podcasting. I feel like it's because I do love to babble, and my best friend she's one of my friends I put the most energy into our relationship. She's always supported me. She's when she sees me do my social medias and how I talk, she's you need long form, you need to get your podcast going so you can do long form content. And that's what I'm here for. So I just need some of the feedback, and let me know how you like it. And anyways, moving forward, get ready for another recap with Southern Charm and Real Housewives of Potomac, and we will catch you guys soon. Thanks again, guys.